Should we move in?
Tell
Yes.
everyone to hold their positions. He may be armed.
I found a letter from...
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to The Monster. Episode 19. To recap, last episode was very much about Nina and what she has been up to during the time when Tenma was training with the gun. She was also training, but at first she was intending to go get training from this assassin, and decided to get a job working at his restaurant, or cafe rather. The ex-assassin turned out to be, or ex-headman turned out to be kind of a decent guy, I guess. So she was like, nah, I'm not gonna get him involved. Now, I think the real question is, will he show up again? I think that's the real question to ask here. He seemed more of a character than some of the other background characters. I suppose it would be kind of the same question to ask of the girl and the soldier. Characters that seem pretty well made and well fleshed out-ish. Like, will they show up again? Who knows? You know, they could just be one-time temporary characters, and that's kind of what it seemed like, but, you know, really hard to say. The only reason I'm maybe suspecting that this guy might show up again, this ex-hitman, is because of his, you know, his work. You know, he might have some sort of connection, or maybe he's like, hey, you know, I've gotten close to Nina and I care about her, you know, I'm gonna help her and save her from these bad guys or whatnot. So he might like show up at one point to help Nina and then maybe get himself killed or something along those lines. You know, at least he has more of a reason to show up again, compared to like the seasoned soldier, for instance. Because I mean, I don't think he would go and put the young girl in danger or involve himself in Tenma's business, right? So in any case, I think episode 18 was definitely very good Nina-centric episode, and we'll see what episode 19 has in store for us this time.
My wife and I divorced about 3 years ago.
Who asks, bro?
She divorced me 3 years ago. She said that I stopped listening to her, and I suppose she was right about that. This was the only thing I did really listen to by that point. My wife said I was broken. She said I was a voyeur, peeking through the window at people's innermost thoughts. Crazy.
Doctor, you're abnormal.
Maybe you're right about that. I became transfixed, obsessively gazing into the abyss of the human heart. I suppose it's possible the abyss gazes back into me. The depths of the human mind are filled with treacherous landscapes. Your fourth victim was an 18-year-old girl in Munich, I believe. I'm curious. Did you experience any form of sexual arousal when you cut her up?
Excuse me? Okay. I mean, I figured this guy was some sort of like detective or something, but Jesus, bro. Jesus. So is he like some sort of like police, like psychiatrist or something? Like a doctor, psychiatrist that works for the police or something?
That would be Mrs. Hannah Kemp from Krupp House, 52 years old.
At that time, I was in...
Wait, I'm not prepared to talk about her. I promise we will eventually get to Mrs. Kemp, but for the moment I would really like to focus on victim number 11. Is that all right? Now then, the peak of your arousal, does that come before or after you commit a murder?
You know, I've never been one to believe in, this idea of, you know, serial killers find sexual pleasure from murder. It like, how does that even, what? I mean, yeah, I suppose if there's like evidence and like actual studies been made and, you know, it's a thing, legitimate thing, right? But it's such a weird concept to think about, because I mean, how does that work? Like, legitimately, it's just weird. It's so fucking weird. I don't know, bro. I mean, I don't know anything about this, but it's one of those things that, you hear about and you think to yourself, how is that possible? Right? Like, it's so beyond your understanding that you're just like, huh? How is that possible? It's like to the point where I just don't believe it exists. If it wasn't for like actual evidence and studies, I would not believe it exists.
Victims were all girls with
Monsters
long hair,
Abyss.
ages 16 to 18. It's clear these murders should all be categorized as acts of sexual homicide. But then he confesses to the murder of his 12th victim, Mrs. Kemp. Mrs. Kemp was 52 and showed no signs of sexual assault. He claims to have killed Mrs. Kemp as a favor for a friend, an obvious and desperate last-ditch attempt to disrupt the investigation. Who is it?
Oh?
Tenma. This is a surprise.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry for barging in on you like this, Rudy. You've heard about my situation.
That's putting it mildly.
Well, do you think I'm a serial killer?
I don't know. But from what I've heard, both the newspapers and our old classmates think you're as guilty as sin.
So, like an old medical school colleague?
So the question is, what are you doing here? Why come to me? We were never exactly what you'd call close. I know for a fact you despised me. I could tell from the way you looked at me. I saw the contempt burning behind your eyes. That's what this is all about. You've come to collect what you think I owe you. Is that it?
It's not like that at all. You've become a noted specialist in criminal psychology. I have something I'd like you to take a look at.
My dear Dr. Tenma, look at me. Look at me. The monster inside me is getting bigger. Help. The monster inside me is about to explode. What on earth is this? Leaving no trace other than a series of cryptic messages addressed to you.
Which is why it's so urgent that I find out where he is now.
Because you think by finding him, you'll also find something that might prove your innocence. 20 years...
Not necessarily. Because, I mean, I'm pretty sure Tenma left before he even knew that he was gonna be, supposedly blamed for these murders, Like, I'm pretty sure his entire idea was to just go out and kill Johan in the first place. Like, that was the plan. That was his plan. It's just that pretty much right around that point, the police, wanted to bring him in because of his, because the tie leading him, I mean, like, literal tie, his tie near the crime scene, one of the crime scenes, ties him to the murders. But I don't think, like, he's chasing Johan because of that. I don't think he's actually, I mean, maybe he cares about his, his innocence or proving his innocence, but I think the main point, the main objective is to make sure that Johan doesn't kill any more people.
Years ago, there was a young man attending a prestigious medical school. He was driven to be top of his class. One day, a Japanese transfer student came and changed everything. This new student was charming, quickly gaining the respect of peers and teachers alike. He had a brilliant mind as well, claiming his position as the top of his class within his first semester, much to the man's dismay. By the next semester, he had become obsessed with regaining his title. He had managed to earn full marks in all his classes so far. However, his last test was in his weakest subject, medical law. If he failed this test, then all of his efforts would go to waste. So he resorted to desperate measures.
Ooh.
Measures he thought would put him back on.
this, I mean, you know, you think about this, you think about his motives, and you might think, oh, you know, it's kind of understandable, you know, the stress, the expectation, you know, the want not to fail. But this isn't about this isn't about failing. This is about not being the top. This is about being the best, right? So in that sense, I'm just saying, not a good idea. Obviously, just not, like, the point is, I can't believe, you know, it's hard to believe that a lot of people need to be told this a lot of the time, even in real life. But it's not a fucking competition. It never was. And a lot of people think that it is, for some reason. You know, it's like the competitive spirit in humans. They want to be the best at everything that they do. Especially, some people especially, like they try to compete in some things where the other person that they're competing with doesn't even know that they're competing, right? It's like, why do you care so much about being better than someone else? Or in this case, I guess, being the top dog, like being better than everyone else. Why? Like, to me, like, I've never understood this, because like, so, okay, so I do better than everyone else. So? And? Then what? Will this give me millions of dollars? No? What's the point? What am I getting from this? Oh, you'll be known as the best, right? You'll be the best, right? The world champion, right? It's kind of like, I don't care. Maybe it's because I don't have an ego, but I just don't care. Why the fuck would I want to be the best of something or at something? You know, I to me, it's like, I just don't care. I understand wanting to be good at something and then see other people seeing that I'm good at something, right? And then maybe they're like, oh my God, you're so good at this, you're so good at that, right? That makes me feel good. But I would never give a shit, or at least that much of a shit, to actually like cheat my way to the top, right? Unless there was something big in it for me, I would like, I just wouldn't care that much, you know? And I mean, this is medical school, right? With this guy, this is medical school. Why are you cheating? First off, it's not a competition. Secondly, you're supposed to actually know this subject, I guess. You know, you're supposed to know this this material.
The Japanese student never told anyone about what he had seen. As a result, the man regained his throne. You think it may be multiple personality disorder. And you've come to the conclusion that one of the personalities is committing these murders while the other personality is trying to get caught. Yes, instances of serial killers leaving these sorts of notes are not unheard of.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that the other one is trying to get caught. I did suspect when we first saw Johan in his, you know, adult form. Well, in many ways we didn't like. I mean, I guess we saw him, yeah, in the next shot, but like he's, you know, they kind of shadowed his face first, and then he talked like, Dr. Tenma, you know, it's been a while. Don't you remember me? You know, he talked like that, right? And when I hear that, I think that he's trying to mask his voice. Usually, when you hear a character masking their voice, or like kind of speaking softly like this, one of two things. Either one, he actually just sounds like that, or two, he's trying to mask his voice. Two is the more likely option here, which means that oftentimes the character ends up being someone, even if we see them, the character might end up being someone that we don't expect. So I suspected disguise. I suspected, you know, some sort of subterfuge going on.
Just as often, these notes are fabricated as legal proof of their insanity. Separating the pretender from the genuine article is the art of the criminal psychologist. And believe you me, this is no easy task. The introverted, shifty-eyed serial killer is more or less a Hollywood fabrication. Many killers are highly intelligent, intuitive, and extremely charming. They are adaptive and skillful liars.
So that's it? You think he might be toying with me?
Well, let's not add to the mounting pile of conjecture just yet. Why don't you tell me a little bit more about this Johan? My wife and I got divorced about 3 years ago. What I mean to say is my wife divorced me 3 years ago.
Thank you, Rudy.
Don't mention it, Tenma. This is a very fascinating case you brought me. I need to do some research. Give me a call next week, all right? Do you have an opinion about this person?
Seems like my kind of guy.
Can you elaborate on that?
The monster. I get all that.
That's interesting. You get the monster.
Interesting. For a second, I thought he went to the police. I mean, I guess he is the police, kind of, in a way. But, I mean, maybe not. He's a criminal psychologist, I guess, whatever the fuck. But, like, it's hard to get a read on this guy.
Makes sense, of course. There's a monster inside both of you. To be fair, there's even a monster inside of me.
Shut your mouth.
Huh?
That's nothing but textbook garbage.
Why is that?
What I'm telling you, Doctor, is that a real monster does exist.
Don't you dare look at me with such contempt! What are you doing? I'm calling the guards!
Well, are you scared yet? Are you scared? Huh? Because there are things out there that will turn your blood to ice, Doctor. I'm going to tell you a secret.
Thank you for your cooperation.
You're really still convinced that Tenma's going to try and contact you again?
Okay, so it did go to the police. Interesting. Who is that guy? That guy that he was like interviewing. I mean, he must know something, right? The way he talked about the monster. I mean,
I'm sure of it. And when he does, I'll notify you immediately. However, after his arrest, I would like to get permission to use him and his case in my research. Dr. Tenma would make a compelling subject. He has a complex criminal mind.
that's the thing, right? I find it hard to believe that they would just believe that he's the killer. Like, I mean, even the police themselves don't have the evidence to just say to everyone that, oh, he's the killer, you know? Like, there's not enough evidence to actually, like, convict him of the serial murders. I'm pretty sure he had, like, and I'm pretty sure he has alibis for some of the other killings as well. It's like, I just find it hard to believe that all these new characters that we're, you know, this guy as well now, they just kind of hop on this train so quickly. And they just believe that, oh, this is, that Tenma is just the killer. It's just so, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I am personally the type of person who wants to know all sides of the story before I make up my mind as to who's right and who's wrong.
I'm going to tell you a secret. Go to Miss Hannah Kemp's house in Krupp House. Make your way to the basement. You're gonna find all of your answers down there. Down there you'll find proof. Proof the monster really does exist.
Officer Cole, Tenma just called. We've arranged for a meeting tonight. O'Dare Park tonight at...
Okay, I'm hoping that Tenma is not stupid, and because this is what I would do as well. I would accept to meet with him at some time, right? And then I would schedule a meeting, right? And then I would see who shows up. Does the police show up? If the police shows up, then it's very obvious that this guy called them, right? That way, that's kind of what I would do if I was a criminal as well. You know, if you schedule a meeting, you always check whether or not there's police around the area first. And maybe you're like, you don't even show up. Maybe you're in on the roof of some other building, and then you're checking with binoculars, right? You don't show up. Maybe you find that, oh, there were police, right? Or maybe you don't. Maybe there weren't any police. Maybe the guy didn't call the police, and then you arrange another meeting, right? In a different location, and do the exact same thing. The point is to make sure absolutely sure that there are no police,
By
right?
the fountain, that's right. Goodbye then.
So I don't think Tenma's stupid enough to, because I mean Tenma literally just showed up, like fucking Batman, right? The first time he went to talk to this guy. So it's I don't think he would schedule a meeting. So I think it's bait.
Retracing Jurgen's steps on the day of his 12th confessed murder. According to our interviews, he broke into the basement and stayed hidden there for several hours. There's nothing out of the ordinary, except there are framed photos all over the basement. They're all pictures of Mrs. Kemp.
When I was a kid, my mother would beat me every day. What she would do, she would take me into the basement. It was dark, and she had this big doll down there. A doll with long hair. Sometimes when she beat me, I would cry to the doll for help. And it would just sit there and smirk and watch. The basement was filled with pictures of my mother. Wherever I tried to look, mother, 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 always watching. No escape.
But what does it mean? Exact in every detail. Is it possible? Did Jurgens actually recreate the basement from his childhood?
Couldn't it just be that that guy is, or the woman was the mother? I mean, oh my god, dun dun dun! The kid is the guy. Oh my god!
The boy next to Mrs. Kemp is Jurgens. It can't be. There's no evidence connecting young Jurgens to Mrs. Kemp. Huh? Something is not right here.
Oh wait, it's the picture was altered, right? Photoshop, or like not Photoshop, like yeah, that. There was something weird about that.
It seems that Jurgens' face was pasted into the photograph. This one. And this one. And another. All of these. Mrs. Kemp never had any children. So who is this boy? Who are you?
Oh,
There you'll find.
son of a bitch. Blonde hair, fuck me, dude. Johan left, right? Like he kind of jumped between parents, or like foster parents, killing them as he went, I think.
Proof.
If I'm remembering correctly.
Proof the monster really does exist. I followed all of the instructions and my friend left me in the letter perfectly. The first letter came in a blank envelope without a name or return address. He wrote to say he understood me, sympathized with me, crap like that. I was annoyed, angry at first, but then another one came, and then another the next day, and again, and so on. He's a letter freak. But before I knew it, I started to expect the letters. Even enjoy them a bit. Then I thought, maybe it's possible he might actually be a friend to me. And then one day, one of his letters asked me for something. He asked me to go down to the basement of this house.
And did the basement belong to Mrs. Kemp?
I still don't know how he could have known. There's no way he could possibly have known what happened to me down there when I was a kid. But somehow, he got everything right, down to the smallest detail. How did he do that? The next thing I knew, I was upstairs, and Mrs. Kemp was dead. He's a letter freak.
That friend of his must have sent letters to Mrs. Kemp as well.
This is a loose trail. This is a loose end. And if Johan was contacting this guy that, you know, this guy is interviewing, I don't think that murderer guy would have just told this guy everything. Unless instructed. I mean, wouldn't it be funny if he reads one of these letters, the most recent one, and it's like, "Oh, tell the detective or whatnot that's going to interview you, tell them everything. Tell them about this house," and so on. I would not be surprised. Because at this point, I mean, this guy's getting too close, no? He's a loose end, no? I mean, come on.
is this? Another? And this? Another one. Look at me. Look at me. The monster inside me is getting bigger. Help me. The monster inside of me is about to explode.
These are the messages that Johan left me.
They're the same. Jurgen's his friend. And Johan. He's real.
Oh my god, he is.
Anything yet? It's way past 8 already.
Well, yeah, he's not gonna show up.
Inspector Cole, hold on.
Wait, is he?
Target in sight. Asian
What?
male, long hair.
We haven't seen his face. We haven't seen his face. It's too far to know. You see? You see? It's too far. We can't see his face yet. Okay, it is
I
his.
appreciate you making time for this, Rudy.
Okay, I'm okay. Not a good idea. I'm surprised Tenma actually fell for this, like legitimately. But somehow, something tells me that Tenma is not gonna get taken in at this moment. Just I don't know. I mean, how, right? If they're so after Tenma and they believe that Tenma is the serial killer, like, there's no way he would ever get out, right? I mean, how, you know? So I don't think he would be taken in here.
I want you to know I did research what you gave me, but I thought you were making it up. I thought that Johan was just a ruse, a scapegoat you created to buy you time once you were caught.
You've got to believe me.
That literally doesn't actually make sense, because if that was the case, why the fuck come to this guy? He's like a good criminal psychiatrist or whatnot, right? If anyone could see through the ruse of a fake like idea of like some sort of excuse, it would be this guy. Why would you go to this guy to give your you know, why would you go to this guy to give your excuse? He's probably the one guy that can see through the excuse. If it was an excuse, right? He should have asked himself, like, why would Tenma come to me? If he was really the serial killer, why would he come to me? There's literally no reason to. We have to think from the other person's point of view. Okay, if we assume that Tenma is innocent and he came to me because he wanted my information or my thoughts on this message and this Johan character, then it would make sense. But if he was guilty, you know, if he was the serial killer, then why the fuck would he come to me? Right? You gotta think from the other person's perspective.
Rudy!
I've been conducting research on a serial killer named Jurgens, and something he said caught my attention. One of his victims is off pattern, showing no connection to profile or ritual.
It doesn't matter, Rudy. Please, just listen to me.
Oh,
Seems like the carnival is wrapping up.
everyone in position. Make sure they're ready to move in on my mark.
Yes, sir.
I want every detail of their conversation.
Tenma? You hated me, didn't you?
Huh?
You've hated me ever since you caught me cheating on that exam in college. I could feel your disdain.
Dr. Gian and Tenma are headed toward the west exit.
Damn, we'll lose them in that crowd.
Okay, so what? He's helping him escape. I mean, why are they even like? I guess maybe, yeah, if they don't have enough evidence and they know it and they're trying to investigate Tenma, right? This is a good opportunity to be like, oh, let's get him talking. Maybe we can get him to confess or something. But at this point, if things don't go per plan, you know, if things don't go according to plan, they should just move in immediately. You're better off capturing him and then trying to get some info from him.
You'd be well within your right. A man like me doesn't deserve your respect.
Rudy, this isn't the time to
Listen to me. Now then, I looked up the answers and wrote them all down on a cheat sheet. A sheet just like this one.
Run. We're surrounded by the police.
Don't look. Just walk.
Is Dr. Tenma threatening Gillen?
I'm not sure, sir. There's too much background noise for me to hear.
Hey, it's my turn!
Jurgens recently confessed to me that he had killed Mrs. Kemp at the request of a friend.
Rudy, what is this?
Something I found in Mrs. Kemp's basement. But Mrs. Kemp never had any children. I have found compelling evidence to suggest that Jurgens' friend and your Johan are both one and the same.
They've passed through the west exit. Should we move in?
Tell
Yes.
everyone to hold their positions. He may be armed.
I found a letter from...
Okay, okay. There's civilians around. Okay, fine. But there's... Dude... They were alone, surrounded by... Oh my god. Oh my god. These police are incompetent. I'm telling you, if you thought he was armed, you would have taken him in instantly. As I said earlier, I thought maybe, okay, they don't have enough information or evidence, so they maybe try to get him to confess or something. But if they believe him to be armed with a weapon, okay, with a gun, they would have taken him in instantly. Because you're better off, if you suspect him to be a fucking serial killer and armed, you're going to take him in without trying to get more evidence, quote unquote. You know, like, it... I don't know. Maybe I'm not a police officer, so maybe I'm wrong, but like, I feel like if you suspect this guy to be a fucking serial killer that's armed with a gun, you'd rather take him in. Especially if he's already like insanely wanted, right? You could probably, even if you don't have the evidence, you could probably hold him for a very long time.
I believe that Johan had been in the care of Mrs. Kemp at some point in his life. That would explain his motivation for orchestrating her death. You're an innocent man, Tenma. I'm sorry I can't give you as much detail as perhaps you'd like, but here's what I've worked out on Johan so far. I don't know how he does it, but Johan can somehow identify other killers. He finds them, worms his way in, beguiles them, then manipulates them. It is worth noting that, to the best of our knowledge, he hasn't killed the foster parents who cared for him as a teenager.
Probably because by the time he reached that age, he no longer found himself dependent on anyone.
Perhaps, but I have another theory. What if Johan found himself his ideal family, and then became a part of it? But why work so hard to erase his past? Was there an ulterior motive? If that is indeed the case, did he make his way into the family for a specific purpose? And what would that purpose be? Well, we're at the bus terminal.
Yes, confirm which bus Tenma's getting on. They get a car over to the terminal and have him followed.
Yes, sir.
Here, the least I could do is buy you a bus ticket. You know, there's still time for you to turn yourself in and prove your innocence, Tenma. I promise I can help you.
The truth is, I'm not chasing after Johan just so I can prove my innocence. Thank you for all your help, Rudy.
Tenma, you don't have to become him to end this.
That reminds me, I really didn't despise you back in college, Rudy. I mean it. I thought you were brilliant, and it was a shame we never had a chance to talk. I'm glad that I can finally count you as a friend.
But I know you caught me cheating on that medical law exam, there's no doubt about it. I saw you looking directly at me and my cheat sheet.
Well, yeah, I cheated on the medical law exam too.
All 5 buses left at the same time?
That's kind of funny.
Be careful, Tenma.
Dude, it's over already? What the fuck? Oh my god, how is it over already? Regardless, very good episode. There were a couple of things, you know, especially with the police and stuff, that I wasn't a fan of. And with this guy, you know, he almost immediately just assuming that Tenma was the killer without, like, yeah, he investigated afterwards, but only because he was investigating this guy, right? He just kind of assumed that Tenma was the killer without any evidence, you know, without even hearing him out. And then he only changed his mind because this guy's case led him to finding more letters of the same kind from Johan, right? And finding this key piece of evidence that this old lady had Johan in her foster care, I guess. I mean, it's just kind of, I'm just surprised, like I'm just surprised how many people just meet Tenma or see Tenma or whatever, right? And then they just because the police suspects him, the people immediately just assume that he's the killer. Like, yeah, I get, shit like this happens all the time, even today, but Jesus Christ, like, dude, innocent until proven guilty, right? Right? But apparently he's just guilty because people just want him to be guilty. Or just believe him to be guilty without any real evidence. That's kind of the thing, right? Like, he kind of told the story of Johan, right, to Inspector Lunge and his people. And it kind of makes sense, right? If a serial killer, if Tenma helped the serial killer, why do you just assume that, oh, Tenma's the serial killer that just had a split personality? It just doesn't make sense. It's more likely that this person does exist, and how about, once we make sure that he doesn't exist, then we start thinking, oh, Tenma has a split personality. It makes more sense that way, in my opinion. But it is what it is. I'm just a little frustrated with the fact that they kind of just assume that Tenma's the killer without any evidence. Not really. Like, they know there's a connection, but there's no real evidence. What did this guy say? Like, that Johan has the ability to find other killers. I mean, that's interesting. I've seen something like that before. There was an anime called what was it called? Moriarty. Kind of a story around Sherlock Holmes and Moriarty, right? It was a pretty good anime, honestly. The ending was kind of trash though, but they kind of did the same thing there. Finds just bad people and then gets them to do bad things for him. So we've seen stuff like that before. One of the most important and most interesting things about this episode was when he said that, what about Johan currently? Maybe he found some sort of family and decided to, actually stay in that family. For what reason, we don't know. And I think that is a very good question. Like, we haven't really seen Johan at all. We're only kind of following the trails of Johan, but again, we haven't really seen Johan. So it's interesting to think of what he might be doing. I mean, at this point, I just kind of assume that he's old enough and smart enough to just live alone somewhere, but he would be the type of person who probably lives with some other person to just to kind of keep up appearances. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed watching this episode 19 with me, and I'll see you in episode 20, I guess. Later.